Thank you very much for staying on the marketplace. Welcome back. Now, local manufacturers of textiles have agreed to fund the implementation of tax stamps on textiles produced in the country. This came to light after an agreement between all stakeholders of the textile industry and the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union. General Secretary of the Union, Solomon Kotai, said the decision was taken because they support efforts by government to deal with the influx of pirated textiles into the Ghanaian market.
A perennial problem. The workers themselves, together with the national leadership, came to the meeting with alternatives to what has been practiced in the past that seems not to work. So in thinking outside the box has resulted in these 5 thematic pillars that we are all going to ensure its compliance. The good thing is that the task force this time round is going to include quite a substantial number of the workforce themselves, together with the police personnel, military, the customs, and then the immigration officers from the border checkpoint. And then again, you see, the task force has also been expanded. It will only be 1 point to the other. This time round, we are beginning with 3, Kumasi, Accra, and Takoradi, and we believe that will bring some sanity in the market situation.
I raised the concern about the cost earlier. I don't know what you have on the table whilst you'll be meeting the Ministry of Finance. What are you going to suggest? That you take the cost of printing the tax stamp, or government takes the cost?
If you have looked at the legislation that was begun by the NDC, okay, on the process of this tax stamp, it didn't start with this government. So all those elements has been fused into it already. The stakeholders have also been brought to a meeting, and they've all admitted and said, look, we are willing to comply, because that will also give us the proper market share that these indigenous enterprises are scrambling for. So it is there that is admitted by all stakeholders.
That they are going to pay for it.
They are going to pay for it. It's going to be another form of revenue to government as well.
So the textile manufacturing companies, ATL, GTP, they are going to pay for the tax stamp, printing of the tax stamp.
Obviously, they are going to use that to sell their product, because it's going to give them guarantee of where the product is coming from. And every market situation, you must separate the inferior from the superior ones. And we think whatever margin they have to contribute to it, they will.
Is it not going to affect the cost of the material in the market? Because already we are talking of price competitiveness.
The question is, how much is it? Okay, and then if you look at the stimulus package that government is also going to give to them, it's going to alleviate the serious cost burden that they carry along. And then again, you realize they've even also reduced the electricity bill and the water bill. So all those areas, could substitute for this new tax stamp they are bringing in.
And still talking about taxes, the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, is granting tax amnesty to defaulting taxpayers who breached the law from 2014 to 2017. Income earners are required by law to declare their status, register with the GRA, and file tax returns. But the contrary has been the case with many workers. Chief Revenue Officer Dominic Knapp spoke with Joy Business at a pre-budget tax stakeholder consultative meeting in Kumasi. Nana Sensu Mensah has more in this report.
The GRA amnesty window has been open since January, and it is expected to close in September. The measure, by law, affords tax defaulters in the last 3 years to register with GRA without penalty. Mr. Knapp throws more light on the policy.
The tax amnesty essentially is targeted at taxpayers and potential taxpayers. By law, any person who earns income is required to actually register with the Ghana Revenue Authority. 2, is required to actually file tax returns on due date. The third one is to pay tax on due date. And the last but not the least is to disclose income correctly and honestly. Now, what is realized is that there are some persons that have not registered with the Ghana Revenue Authority at all. That is to say, GRA does not have their records. Then we also have the other group that is registered with Ghana Revenue Authority but have not actually fulfilled the requirements regarding filing their tax returns on due date, paying their taxes on due date, and disclosing their income correctly. So the amnesty is actually to address that. Amnesty is essentially a dispensation which is actually limited in as far as its application is concerned. What it means is that it is not just going to be there forever. It has a period. Is that okay? By law, between January and August 31st, persons that are interested should actually apply to Ghana Revenue Authority.
The Chief Revenue advises offenders to take advantage of the offer before the window closes or have themselves to be blamed.
Yeah, if you are unable to take advantage of the opportunity after that, then what it means is that any taxes that you are required to pay, you have to pay penalty, pay interest, and you could also be prosecuted. But for persons who have not registered with us at all, what it means is that they are operating illegally. And for such persons, we would ensure that they pay all the taxes and could also be prosecuted. And on top of that, they also pay the interest and penalties. But it is not allowed, it's not right for you to actually work without actually paying taxes.
Ashanti Regional Chairman of Ghana Union Traders Associations, Antonio Pong, spoke on behalf of the members.
I think it's a very good policy in view of the government's development project that he is embarking. So I would advise all traders who are defaulting their tax obligations to take advantage of the amnesty.
Nana Asensu-Mensah, reporting for Joy News.
And back here in Accra, Director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISA, at the University of Ghana, Professor Felix Ankuma-Sante, is calling for more investment into data systems in the country. This comes as Ghana still does not have a strong data system, even though technology has become an important factor in economic development. He spoke with Joy Business on the sidelines of the National Dialogue on the SDGs under the theme, The Role of Data and Technology in Achieving the Agenda 2030.
I think as a country we need to invest in data. I don't think we are doing much. The body mandated to be at the center of data is the Ghana Statistical Service. Okay, so I think we need to provide enough resources. Currently, I'm very, very sure we are not doing that, and that is why we have all these challenges. Where do we go if we want data? We need more investments. Data is very, very powerful, like I said earlier, and so we need to make sure that we invest in it. I mean, look, every politician, every political party uses the debt to GDP. And the Statistical Service picks the data on GDP. So you know how powerful data is, because everybody wants to make sure that the debt to GDP figure is going down. People with access to this service is going down. So data is very, very powerful. Not invested much. We've not invested much. I mean, I work with data, I collect data, I use secondary data and other things. We've not invested much. We need to do more. We need to invest, and then we also need to make sure that we have good documentation of the data, so that at any point in time, when you go for the data, when I go for the data, it's the same. But you can go to one institution, two people, and you get different data. Okay, I think we need to streamline some of these things. Data is very, very key and important.
Is that the way forward? What's the way forward?
I think we should mandate all the institutions or the sectors to make sure that their policy planning unit is strong, so that they can pick the relevant data in their sector. And then there should be a place that all this data should go. So anybody who wants it should be able to get it. Maybe NDPC or SASCA, so that we can all access it. Accessing the data is the challenge. Yes.
Well, let's now turn attention to do some stories in the oil and gas industry. And Tullow Oil is to begin another shutdown of the FPSO Kwame Nkrumah today, the second one this year. It is expected to last for about 3 weeks. Now, some people have argued that these series of shutdowns could be deliberate to influence the amount of tax payments to the state. Others also believe the current shutdown could trigger some inflationary pressures and have a negative impact on oil production. Let's now get in touch with energy expert Ishmael Ejukumhene to do some analysis and to tell us what exactly he belongs. Now, good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the marketplace. So the argument has been coming. Every now and then we hear shutdowns since last year, and its impact on national development cannot be underemphasized. Now, what is your take? Do you belong to the school of thought which thinks or which suspects some deliberate moves by the oil company, or you think it is a prerequisite for oil production?
Well, I don't think it's deliberate. These are well-advertised shutdowns, and we all know where this problem is coming from. It's the tariff bearing that has been faulty, and they've been trying to fix it. And it's been pre-announced, it's been planned that they need to allow these shutdowns for the bearing. You know, they are changing it to a permanent mooring system now. So we knew from last year that these shutdowns are going to happen. So I don't think it's deliberate, and I think it's been factored into the expected revenues from oil production in the year 2018. So I wouldn't subscribe to that school of thought.
Now, which could have been the necessary option or the best option? Shutting it down for a longer period, finish with it once and for all, or intermittently closing it down and fixing the system?
Well, I am not an engineer, so I wouldn't be able to comment on that. But I know this is supposed to be the work program that they've submitted to all stakeholders, including the government. GMPC should be aware of that. And if this is the approach they are using, it presupposes that this is the best solution out there. But we've known this. Let's only hope that once they fix this problem, all these shutdowns will stop. But I think the good news here is that at least we have other fields that are producing. So unlike previously that it was only Jubilee, now we have other fields that are also producing. They may not be doing as much as Jubilee, but at least it's not going to be zero. And we also know that prices are also going up. So it will kind of compensate for whatever revenues that we're going to lose within these 3 weeks. But I know it was factored into our projections for 2018. Let's hope that once they finish all that work in 2018, we wouldn't be having any more problems with FPSO coming through.
Exactly my point. I mean, we are in a period when we're seeing oil prices rebound to higher levels. Now, you don't think it could affect, especially when we set a benchmark last year, it could affect it in any way? I mean, our oil revenues totally that we generate.
Well, as I was saying, these shutdowns were actually pre-planned, so they were all factored into the production this year as far as Jubilee is concerned. So I don't think so, unless there are going to be additional shutdowns which are not pre-planned. So yes, the FPSO needs to be fixed once and for all. This one FPSO Kwame Nkrumah we know has been very problematic. So let's fix it once and for all, and let's hope that it stabilizes and it wouldn't give us any more problems. But yes, any day that they don't produce, if you consider the fact that Jubilee is at the moment doing something like 100 and something thousand barrels a day, you multiply it by the 21 days that is going to be shut down, and you also multiply by the price at which the oil could have been sold, and it gives you a sense of how much revenue we're not going to get. But the thing is that it was factored into their projection, I believe. And also, if we don't pump it, thankfully we don't lose the oil. Anytime they want to ramp up production, they will be able to increase production along the line to recover from that. But I think the central message I want to communicate is that this is not an unexpected shutdown. So I believe that it was part of the minister's projection. But, following the amendment of the PRMA, even if there are shortfalls, the minister can always go back and inform Parliament that they didn't meet the expectations, so they are revising the benchmark revenue. But don't forget, I also mentioned that yes, it might suffer production-wise, but this is the period where, like you said, oil prices are also going up. So since revenue is a function of production and price, if we are unable to produce for a short period, but the prices are to stay where they are, they may end up compensating for the production that we didn't produce because of the shutdown. But if it's a pre-announced shutdown, then I know that they normally would have factored that into their projections for 2018.
Now, given the fact that our shutdowns, especially on the FPSO Kwame Nkrumah, has been quite frequent, despite your explanation that it could be, a necessary engineering requirement, moving forward, what should be done to prevent some of these things on the other fields that are coming up or that are already, producing?
We are told by GMPC that they learned from the Kwame Nkrumah problems in approving the design for the other FPSOs that we have in this country. So we haven't had any such problem with the other 2 FPSOs. But I think it raises a fundamental question about the kind of due diligence and the kind of guarantees that we got for FPSO Kwame Nkrumah, because the turret bearing problem, it is not something that we expected. So we're not sure whether we even getting compensated for. I mean, we all know that the Jubilee partners, for example, took some insurance that we hadn't taken as of 2016 and 2017. But I think now we have an insurance, so whenever we shut down production, we're supposed to be paid. Even Ghana Gas has some insurance that if they are not unable to work because Jubilee is not working, they also get some compensation. But I think FPSO Kwame Nkrumah, probably something didn't go right because the problems are not usual with FPSO. So hopefully, if we are to take GNPC by their word that they incorporated the challenges they found with Kwame Nkrumah in the other 2 FPSOs, Ajekum Kufuor and also JEA Mills, we shouldn't expect those problems as far as those 2 FPSOs are concerned. And also even with Jubilee, the solution that is being implemented is for what the technical partners themselves recommended. So once we spend all this money fixing the turret bearing thing and making it permanently more, I don't expect the problem to continue. So let's keep our eye on Kwame Nkrumah to see if the problem will be solved by the time they are through.
All right, so lastly, before you go, should we expect any impact on power supply?
No, from what VRA and GRICO are telling us, they said there might be minimal interruptions, but I think, like I said, this was known from the beginning. So if you look at VRA's proposal to the PRC, when they were asking for tariffs, they said they were going to import some cargo of crude oil as a backup during this shutdown. So ordinarily, I don't expect that to impact the power supply because, again, it's not an unexpected shutdown, it's a planned shutdown.
Thank you very much for your time. Ishmael Ejikumhene is an energy expert. He's also a member of the PURC, and he's been sharing his thoughts on the situation currently where Tullow has announced it's going to embark on the 2nd shutdown of the FPSO, which is starting today. Away from that, President of the Advertisers Association of Ghana, Joel E. Neti, says he fully supports a directive by the Food and Drugs Authority, FDA, to stop the advertisement of alcoholic beverages during peak hours of the day. Some advertising agencies have complained against this directive, saying it could affect profits. But Joel Neti insists it is the best thing to do. He spoke with Joy Business at the sidelines of the 2nd Africa Leadership Conference here in Accra.
Essentially, look, I keep saying it's not a panacea. It's not going to come and resolve all our problems. But most importantly, it gives us structure. There are 1,001 charlatans who are walking around today who are doing all kinds of things that are unacceptable. Times of advertising, the quality of advertising, how you talk to people, what times you talk to people, various things. Now, if we don't have a bill that holds people to account, then essentially engaging them and asking them to do the right thing is really just appealing to people's consciences. And we know that that doesn't work. So the advertising bill essentially is supposed to come into place where we can all, together with the consumer, and it's not just us as advertising agencies, it's all advertising practitioners, it's the consumers, it's the Food and Drugs Board, it's media houses, it's everybody who plays in that space, agreeing that these are the laws that govern our operations, and saying that if you go afoul of these laws, this is what will happen. That way you can clean up the system and ensure that you are doing proper advertising.
Finally, before I let you go, what's your your thoughts about the FDA giving this order that advertisements on alcoholic drinks will not have to be done in the course of the day, but rather at night? What do you have to say about this?
There's method to the madness. During the day, for instance, once again, it comes back to targeting. In the morning, when I'm driving my kids to school, yes, it's day. But why do you want to advertise alcohol when you know that chances are there'll be people who you don't want to utilize alcohol in the assessing it or in the vehicle? There's always a time for everything. So that's a blanket. The conversation should not be about what do I think about FDA? It's more about what do I think about the time bands. If the time bands are realistic, then it's fine. I totally support it. If the time bands are not realistic, then we can have conversations around them. But that there must be a rule that limits when the advertisements are shown. And it's not just about advertisements. I was watching TV the other day. There was a cartoon being shown. And when you pay close attention to the cartoon and the contents of the cartoon, they were pornographic. So the fact that it's showing as cartoons.
And just before we go, the Director General of the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, Simon Alote, is urging more collaboration among domestic carriers to revamp the domestic airline industry. This comes as the authority works to have some new airlines commence operations this year. Speaking to Joy Business, Simon Alote recalled that aside the numerous challenges that led to the demise of several local airlines, a lack of collaboration was also a significant factor.
The lack of collaboration or partnerships among the various domestic operators have also contributed to their demise. You can be competitors but still collaborate. So this time around, we want to see effective collaboration among the domestic operators so that they can co-share certain flights, especially during times when, during off-peak travel, to ensure effective utilization of their aircraft. So we are being more proactive than before to ensure that the domestic operators succeed.
And on that note, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of the Marketplace. Many thanks for your time, and it's been great having you today. Let's meet again, same time tomorrow. My name is Emmanuel Obwaji. Have a good afternoon.